Okay, so here we have the Innova OSD VTX. This was sent in by Banggood for review, so thanks for sending it. So this one's a 20 by 20 format VTX with OSD integrated. It only has two mounting holes, so this portion would be floating. So this one, I believe, this one's aimed at the micro quad format. So, but because of the cool features, you could there's no stopping you from using it in just any regular 5-inch quad, which I'll probably end up using this in one of those. The cool feature is that you can change the channel via the OSD using your radio control sticks. So just like you change the PIDs, you can change the channel and the band, and also the power output. So you can go from 25mw to 200mw. So those are pretty cool features. It uses a custom firmware, MW-OSD firmware. So that's one of the things that I'm not too sure about if you update the firmware, you may lose the channel changing capability. So I think they do warn against that. So that's something to keep in mind. But I believe the version it uses is a pretty new version, so it'll work with Betaflight. As you can see, I actually went ahead and just direct solder the SMA pigtail to the output right here, because I didn't like that, and I desoldered that connector there. I didn't like it how loose it was. I might have gotten a loose pigtail, because for the most part those work pretty well. And when you install it, I highly recommend you use some form of liquid tape so that it's not moving. I was unplugging it and plugging it and moving it too much, so it might have gotten the connector loose. So it was fitting kind of loose, so I didn't like it, so I just went ahead and soldered it. And also I didn't like how close it is to the positive lead input. And this one is 3 to 6S compatible. On the product page, they say input is from 4.5 to 36 volts. So that's quite a wide range, but most people are gonna use it just on 3S or 4S. So it uses the regular Max 7456 chip. That's the typical use on Minim OSD. This one is the version 2, so it has an LC filter here, and I believe they use just a regular, looks like a linear regulator with some filtering here. There's the inductor and some capacitors there to clean up the noise. And they give you these cables, one's for the camera, so it's just a pigtail that you splice into your camera. The other one is for LED output and 5-volt output. So that's the other pigtail. They give you some pin connectors and a couple of the nylon standoffs. So I've wired it up to a flight controller, just a regular F4 board from Banggood, and the board I've connected a FR Sky XM Plus and just a test camera here, and I'm just gonna hook it up to a 3S battery. So the camera goes to this connector here with the supply cable, and the actual OSD part, you gotta connect the RX and TX and a ground to the FC so that it can send the commands from the FC to the OSD part and vice versa. And also, I guess, to change the channel, because you can change the channel through the OSD. It's supposed to use a modified MW-OSD firmware, and I kind of read that not to update it, because then you may lose the channel changing feature. So that's something to keep an eye for. This board is supposed to work on, I believe it's 3S to 6S, I believe. So you just connect it direct to battery here. Gotta be careful with the, I don't know why they did that, the positive lead is very close to this antenna connector. So you gotta be careful not to like have this rotate like that and bridge to the live battery there, because then you'll have a short circuit and you may fry the board. So might be a good idea to somehow add a blob of liquid tape right there, so you know, to cover that so it doesn't happen. And so this unit, this one's, I believe this is the version 2. It's supposed to have it has a LC filter on the 5-volt regulator, and that's supposed to have 3 amps, I believe. So that's plenty to drive FC and a camera out of that 5 volts voltage. And it also has LED, I believe, LED connection. So the VTX part, you could just, you could just open this, and I was trying to look what's in there, and it's just a regular RT615 chip. So that's the common chip for the 5.8 transmitters, but it seems to be some kind of a custom board, because this doesn't look like anything like all the other modules. So that's like a custom board, and this one's supposed to have it has power switching, so you can go from 25 milliwatts to 200 milliwatts. So we'll check that feature once I connect this to the to power and change the settings via the transmitter and looking at the goggles. So that's gonna be next. Let's put some power to this. So now we're gonna check the power output. It's on 25 milliwatt setting. So just connect it to a 3S LiPo. So that's about 30 milliwatts or so, a little bit more than what it's supposed to be, but it's gonna decrease as it heats up. It decreases a little bit, so it needs some moving air to stay at that output. So as you can see, when it gets some air, the power goes up. So I guess that's kind of normal for most VTXs that are small and don't have heat sinks. Now let's go ahead and change the power, which is this one. So that goes to 200 and save and exit. And it goes up a little bit, but not quite 200. So it's more like around 80 or so. It's around 80 milliwatts. So not quite 200, but 80 milliwatts. I guess that would be good enough for if you're just using this for freestyling just around the park or for a race squad. So there we go. It seems like it's stabilized at about 84 milliwatts. That's when it's on the 200 milliwatt setting, so not quite 200. That's kind of common on a lot of the VTXs. Not a bad thing. This one's mainly designed for micros, so you know you don't go that far. So 80 milliwatts should be plenty. There should be plenty power to get around and you know, or for race setups. So overall, a nice little integrated OSD and VTX with some really cool features. The channel changing and frequency changing, and also the power changing features are pretty cool. So you don't have to, you know, especially if it's deep inside the frame, you don't have to be searching for buttons, or maybe you can't see what channel. You know, sometimes the if it uses those LEDs that show you a little number where that lights up depending on the channel, the frequency, or like a digital display, sometimes that's blocked off. So seeing it through the OSD, through the goggles, OSD is pretty cool. So